Megan and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to walk you through the process of making this glass bottle wood vase design. I was inspired by the Shiny Two Chic Girls. They have their own website and YouTube channel that you should definitely check out with loads of projects and plans. So I'll definitely link those in the description box below. But today I'll walk you through how I went about the project. So the first design decision you're going to want to make in creating your glass bottle wood vase design is how big you want to make it, and that's how many bottles you're going to need based on their particular size. You can go really unique at this point in making your design up is what glass bottle you want to use. You might pick it based on its glass color, its texture, or again, size. You want to think about your particular design aesthetic, maybe who you're making it for, or if you have that really special, perfect spot for it in your home and kind of design around that. You can go in many directions, but the first thing I always say is great is using recycled materials. I happen to have a lot of these on hand for my boyfriend who's really into the Mexican Cokes right now. They're made with cane sugar rather than high fructose corn syrup, and I have 7 of them on hand, so I'm gonna use these. I also particularly really like their green glass color, and I think it will be really cute in my home. In the past, I've made them for other people, so I've kept it with just clear glass so that it goes with any of their design choices in their home. So you can really customize it based on your need or what you have on hand. I don't really like though that they have the Coca-Cola logo on them. So the first thing I'm gonna do is actually remove the painted on label so that I have just a clear green glass. So first I'm going to walk you through how you determine the length of the pieces you'll cut from your 1x6 board. I'm starting with a 6-foot board or 72 inches in length. To determine the length of our side pieces, we want to measure the height of the bottle we are using and then subtract ½ an inch from that. My bottle is 9 3/4 inch in height, so subtracting ½ an inch, we get 9 1/4 inches for the length of both of our sides. Then, to determine our piece's length, we need to know how many bottles we want to use. The top and the bottom lengths come out to be number of bottles minus 1 multiplied by a factor of 3½ inches. This represents the distance between each circle's center from the next, and then we add 2½ inches times 2 for the distance from the 2 outer edges to the first holes. We are using 7 bottles, so we'll be multiplying 7 bottles minus 1 by 3½ inches and adding 5 inches for the 2 outer edges. That calculates out to a total length of 26 inches for both the top and bottom pieces. The total of all our pieces then comes to 70½ inches of our 72-inch board. The minimal extra is good to have due to loss of some length from each cut due to the thickness of the blade. Now let's go and put this project together. So the materials you're going to need to create this project are a 1x6 by 6 foot wood board or longer if your project is to be larger than mine, an electric drill, a drill bit you can cut out your circles with, like a wood boring spade drill bit, a Forstner bit, or what I'm using since I have the size I'm looking for in my set is a hole saw bit. A brad nailer with 1 1/4 inch brad nails, or you could use a normal hammer and nails if you don't have a brad nailer in your workshop. Measuring tape, a sander or sandpaper, wood glue, your finish of choice, whether that be paint or stain, and a finished polyurethane to protect the project. Personal protective equipment such as safety goggles, glasses, and dust mask are also useful to have. And finally, you need some sort of saw to cut out your pieces. So the first thing you're going to want to do for your project is take your tape measure and measure out the pieces you're going to cut out of your 1x6. For my project, I need 2 26-inch pieces for the top and bottom, and then 2 9 1/4 inch pieces for the 2 sides. And that again is based on the height of your particular bottle. And just one trick is when you're cutting your board pieces, make sure you measure and then cut and measure again so that you're taking into account any thickness lost by the blade instead of measuring all your pieces and cutting all at once. This way it's more accurate. So first I'm going to measure to my 26-inch piece. And we're all set to cut. So now we're going to cut our boards. You can use any saw that you have at your disposal, whether it be a hand saw, a circular saw, a jigsaw. I have a miter saw, so that's what I'm going to use today. So again, we just measured our 26-inch piece for the top for my project, and that's what I'm going to cut right now. So always wear safety glasses or goggles whenever you're working with a saw. And I always like to use this locking mechanism to keep the board in place. Make sure you keep your hands free of the blade when you're cutting. Now we have our first cut piece. We're just going to continue this method until we've cut all our pieces. Now we have our two side pieces cut and our two top and bottom. So now we're going to take our tape measure again and make our marks where we're going to cut out the circles on the top of the board. Basically, the first thing I'm going to start with is mark every center of the circle along the board for our 7 bottles. So that's going to be 2.5 inches in on each side, and then 3.5 inches from the center of each circle to another in the middle. So again, measuring 2.5 inches in from the side. I'm trying to kind of get it towards the center so that when we mark our center line, we can have all those cross hatches right where we're going to have the center of the circle cut. 2.5 in from this side as well. And now we can go to 3.5 in from these on each side. And now what we want to do is find the center of the board so that we'll have a crosshatch on those lines in the center as well. And remember that a 1x6 is not actually quite 6 inches in length. It actually is only 5.5 in width. So we're actually going to find the middle of that, which is going to be 2 3/4 of an inch in. And now you don't need to have this, but I find them really handy. It's basically like a T-square would act, but it's like a T-triangle. So it gives you a straight edge to make lines on wood. So this automatically is going to be perpendicular to the edge of the board. Another way you can do this if you don't have a kind of T-square or anything like that is take your measurements on either side, and you can use a piece of wood and match it up to the two ends, and then that gives you a straight edge to do the kind of middle section. And we just wanted to get those crosshatch pieces on the middle pieces. See, these are the cross pieces where we'll put the bit to mark the center of each circle we're going to cut out. And we'll just sand this later so all those markings will come off. So the next thing we're going to do is actually cut out the hole with our bit to make the circles in the top of the board. And now our bit, you can see, it's kind of like enclosed inside. So because of the thickness of the board, it's not able to punch through the whole way. So I'm actually going to flip the board. I have this hole already far enough in that I can mark it in from the back side and just finish the cut. Just like that. Our first hole. I'm just going to do the rest of them now. And now we can just sand these to make them smooth and not have any of these kind of rough edges. So the next thing up is going to be sanding our wood pieces so that we can attach them for the final project. I'm going to be using an orbital sander since this is kind of the best that I have as options. You're definitely going to have to use some pieces freehand to get into the circles as well. But really there's a lot of options on whatever you have in your workshop or that you can get for minimal cost. There's even sanding bricks kind of like this. There's little hand sanders that you just slip the sandpapers in and attach those down, and you can hand sand your pieces, or you can kind of go with the actual electric sanders. And what you want to do for your projects is there's different grits of sandpaper. They range from smaller numbers to larger numbers, or lower grit to higher grit. And the higher number grit you have, the more finished your surface is going to be. So the lower grit numbers of like 80 for this pack is usually for coarse, kind of getting off a lot of the dense material, and then you move up to kind of more finished end product. This talks about 80 is for coarse removal, 150 very fine finish, and then up to 220 is an ultra fine or final finish grit. So we'll work through these, get to a final product to put together. Next, we're gonna assemble the piece. So we're gonna use our brad nailer and some wood glue to attach the pieces. I always keep some tissues handy just to wipe away any excess wood glue that squeezes out when you attach the pieces. So first we're gonna attach the sides to the bottom. And again, when you're picking out wood, even from the store, make sure you're kind of looking at your board, and if you don't like any features on it, you're picking a different one, or if you like features on it, you're picking them. For instance, I like sometimes having these little like feathery type of wood grain, especially the top piece. You can see that I chose to be the actual top. It has this big grain right here. So these can be features that you like, or you might want your wood to be completely plain of them. So definitely when you're picking your wood out from the store, take note of this, as well as when you're picking your cuts out of the piece, or even which is going to be your top and bottom. You can hide those pieces on the bottom, or you can showcase them as the top. So you just put a little bead of wood glue along the end. And there you go, the bottom's done. And again, this is a bottom, so we nailed up through the bottom, so you won't see these at all, so you don't even have to bother wood filling them if you don't like the aesthetic of seeing the nail holes. And again, if you had any kind of wood glue that came through as you were moving those around, just make sure you kind of clean it up with your tissue. And if it really comes out and it's already dried, you can even like sand that off and it will be pretty good. Now we'll do the top. So the same thing, you're going to put a bead of wood glue on either end and then nail them from the top. Again, I really like the aesthetic of kind of like rustic in my house, so I don't mind the nail holes, but if you do mind them, you can always get a wood filler, fill those, sand it again before you stain. Top, I sometimes like to clamp it in place just so I know they're going to both stay where they are, especially because the aesthetic of the top, I want it to be perfect, or as close to perfect as wood can be. looking good. And there you have it, all built up. So now that's all left to do is, again, if you don't like the look of the nail holes, you can take some wood filler, fill those up real easy, sand it clean and flat again. And next thing will be to finish it. And this is, again, really where you get to decide on what kind of look you like for the finish. And now we're at the last step of the project, which is finishing your piece. This is, again, where you can get really creative with making it the certain look of the piece that you want. You could paint the wood, you could stain it, you could leave it as it is and just put a clear poly on it. Really, it's all up to you and your creativity. What I'm going to do to finish the piece today is use a combination of two stains that I have, Weathered Oak by Minwax and then Briar Smoke by Varathane. The Weathered Oak, using that first will kind of just make it a little bit lighter than just using the Briar Smoke straight off the bat and give it a little more of a weathered look. And what I like to do is actually use just like old socks that I would have thrown away because they have holes in them for my staining, rather than having to go buy either brushes or those sponge type things that they sell in the store. This is a free alternative that you can use your old socks that way. Okay, scratch that. I was pretty much out of the Weathered Oak in that can, so I'm actually gonna switch gears and go with a whitewash pickling prior than the Briar Smoke. We'll see how this looks. I don't know if I've done this combination yet, but we'll see how it works. Now you want to make sure your stains are well mixed so that the colors are equally distributed. So just make sure you give them a good mix. If they're brand new, you can kind of shake the actual pan usually, but if they've already been opened, I tend not to like to do that. So I either just kind of pick up some scrap wood, or you can always get the free paint mixer sticks at the hardware store. Propped it up on some pieces of wood at the corners just so most of it is open to the air to dry. Next we'll poly it for the finished product. And here's the finished project. I'm really happy with it. In the past I've only made these as gifts for other people, so I was really excited to make one for my own home, and I really like the choices I made. The green glass bottles are so pretty, and the stain I use matches a lot of the other wood pieces in my home already. And I love the orange flowers for the fall. And that's one thing that's really great about this piece is you can change out the flowers and match them to any season of the year, so the decor piece can really be used the entire year long. It's minimal cost. The wood's about $10. Recycle the bottles and then buy your flowers, and that's the whole piece right there. It's also minimal tools, so if you're getting started in woodworking and you want to start outfitting your workshop, this is a great project to get started because these tools are going to carry you into many projects to come. I hope you liked the how-to video today, And if you did, please click that like button to support my channel, and think about subscribing and hitting that bell to be notified for more videos to come out. I'm so excited to share with you all everything Megan made.